Hey, we have brought back to the show an accomplished author, book publisher, and has won several awards for all of his work. He's been on several national syndicated radio shows, as well as some highly television shows. History Channel. Brad Olsen is next.
Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I am afraid that is white. I need you. Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, Austin, we are back again. We had a great first show, and at this time, I would like to welcome Brad Olsen back to the show. How are you, sir?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Real pleasure to be here again.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming back. Then it was one of those. Everybody that watched the first show with Brad, I was I would say at best half of myself, since having COVID, and that one was. So I feel like I wasn't even close to being on par where I needed to be for you. So I wanted to get with that and just we apologize for how that stuff and get you on. So this time, everybody, he is an accomplished author. He's got an Esoteric Series, beyond future, modern, and beyond esoteric. These and other books you can also find at bradolsen.com. Go there, check these out. It's your own publishing company, correct? CCC Publishing.
Yep.
That's in here.
I do publish other authors, including Leo Zagami and a whole host of other authors. I have a copy of Beyond Esoteric here I'll be referencing today, but you got it. A couple of other authors and books that I do. There we go.
And here's
got the catalog.
That's the book that we'll be talking about right there, and that's Beyond Esoteric. Really, really well done book, by the way, sir. I compliments on those. They very well done. It's like the guys say, especially
6 years
with
in the
pictures.
making.
The picture, honestly, pictures, as much as like jokes aside, pictures do help, especially when you're referencing certain images, certain things that people need to do. When you can visualize it right there, it actually really helps. Because the last thing you want to do is, constantly putting the book down and Google searching as you're trying to find it, when you can have it right there. So that's really nice. But we brought you on because we wanted to continue the talk we had about all the crazy stuff that was going on down in Antarctica and the other things around this. And so basically, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and I discovered this, and I was actually really surprised. I'd never heard of this before, was the Ark of Gabriel.
Yeah, and it has an Antarctica connection, a really bizarre twist at the end. So why don't I give your listeners and you guys a storyline of how it went down?
Yeah, please do.
So in 2015, do you remember when there was there was first a crane collapse and a few dozen people died. think it was March 2015. But then about 12 days later, there were hundreds of people that died in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And the hundreds of people that died was blamed on a stampede. It was a very big news event with that many people perishing. But what really happened was they were uncovering around the Kaaba, which is a sacred black box which contains a meteorite in the middle of Mecca back in early 2015. And upon first disclosure of some kind of religious artifact, there's Mecca, there's the crane collapse. So you can see it was right there in the Grand Mosque. It was underneath the Grand Mosque. They found this thing in the most sacred location to every Muslim in the world. The crane collapsed, a few dozen people died. They tried to open it again, and then hundreds of people died. And they realized that we have a big problem on our hands. We got to get rid of this thing. In some Eastern Orthodox esoteric writings, and keep in mind that during the Crusades of Europe, around between about 1000 and 1200 AD, the Catholic knights were coming over from Western Europe, Southern Europe, and they were basically going on marauding campaigns, just rape, pillage, destruction, kill the infidels kind of thing. It was really terrible what the Inquisition and the Inquisition at the time in Europe, if you were not a believer. But if you were a believer and you went off on a crusade, you were going to crush the infidels and take back Jerusalem. And so a lot of artifacts went underground. I don't think the Gabriel Ark was there, but it did go underground at some period of time. But the Eastern Orthodox Church, including Patriarch Kirill, knew about this device, and there was some writing in Eastern Orthodox literature that he had that would help them with the removal and disposal of the Ark of Gabriel. So the Saudis were in touch with this guy, Patriarch Kirill, said, we got a real dilemma here. We understand you have some information about getting rid of this thing. He talked to Vladimir Putin, who then sent down an armada of ships to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, a couple of months later. From there, they did a beeline straight south to Antarctica to dispose of it. And so by the time they got to Antarctica, it's now 2016. In the summer is opposite here, so it was early 2016. And that's when Patriarch Kirill also went to Antarctica to the cover story, Bless a Chapel. And it's the only church chapel religious structure on the entire continent of Antarctica, which is the 5th largest continent of the world. It is huge down there. As I was telling you guys last time I was on, I had the great opportunity to go down there 2.5 years ago. And so they disposed of the Ark of Gabriel in an old German bunker in the New Schwabenland area. Probably not near this chapel, but there it is. The smallest and only church chapel on the entire continent. Patriarch Kirill went down there. So apparently something in these documents that he contained, he needed to accompany it and to complete the disposal of this in an old Nazi bunker in the New Schwabenland claimed area. And it's interesting that around that exact same time frame, all of these elites start going down there too. It was this big thing, and it was already, there weren't any more celebrities going when I was there in 2019, but there were still a lot of people that heard about a lot of religious figures, including the Pope is believed to have gone down there. And what was really interesting, on the way down to Antarctica, Patriarch Kirill meets with the Pope in Havana, Cuba. And for the first time in hundreds of years, because these two religions have been very diametrically opposed, especially since the Crusades, in which they would slaughter Orthodox Christians just as equally as they would kill Muslims. And they met and hugged for the first time. They may have shared information or attaché. And then there goes Kirill down to Antarctica to put an end to the Ark of Gabriel once and for all, or to stash it away in some frozen tundra where it can never be wreak havoc again. But another weird, twisted little incident concerning Antarctica and another Ark of the Gabriel. So just to give your listeners some comparison, the Ark of the Covenant is recorded quite extensively in the Bible. And there are references of people touching it or handling it in a non-holy way, and it would give them a shock ray and kill them. People died in the Bible from mishandling the Ark of the Covenant. So it's that same kind of plasma discharge would be probably the best way I could try to describe it, is what the Ark of the Covenant was able to do too. Now, if this was the providence of God or some kind of perhaps ancient artifact that still worked, that was still an energy generator perhaps, or something that we're only beginning to understand, this discharge of energy, that is part of the mystery of the Ark of Gabriel, as well as the Ark of the Covenant, which is still officially unknown whereabouts, but there are several speculated locations. When I did my travel books, I did a book called Sacred Places Around the World. And one of the presumed locations of the Ark of the Covenant is down in Ethiopia. And there's that big connection with Aksum, has the obelisks and the underground carved temples in Ethiopia. One of the wonders of the world, no doubt. And it's called Lelabalium, probably not pronouncing that right. But they're the incredible carved into the rock underground churches and chapels. And that is probably the best leading place of where the Ark of the Covenant is now. And of course, only the priesthood can go in there. It's very private, very locked off. And so that's the companion, sort of like the way Titanic had a companion ship, the Olympia, which is the one that really got sunk. So did the Ark of the Covenant with the Ark of Gabriel. I think sometimes things work better in twos.
And I was, kind of like a thing, I was going to kind of piggyback on that too. Okay, so here are the Ark of the Covenant, supposedly in this little chapel in Ethiopia. I mean, everybody's like, does this priest have like these supernatural powers? Because I've just always looked at it. It's like, here's this, what looks like a frail elderly man just saying, no, you can't go in here. I'm like, you, me, and Austin could walk right up. One of us could hold him while the other two of you just go in and explore the chapel all you want to. I mean, I could just sit there and be holding the guy. And so I've always wondered why.
Well, I think they took him to the chapel. They took him to the chapel as the cover story. There's always a cover story with this stuff. And because it's an Orthodox chapel and he's going down there, okay, great. They could probably fly him there from just about anywhere. But I think the Ark of the Covenant, the data points that I've read that are the most useful suggest that it went into an old bunker created by the Germans in the late 1930s when they built their New Berlin base, or Base 211. And some of those documents are coming out, and including maps, which I have reproduced in Beyond Esoteric. Let me just flip to that page and I'll show you. Including the New Schwabenland claimed area, as well as this really amazing map. There they are, of the U-boats being able to go underneath the ice. So there's New Schwabenland, and I could point out where the base is located. So this is the Schumacher Ponds, where my fingertip is, and then right up in those mountains is where the New Berlin base. I'd say that's the leading category. And all those mountains in Antarctica, in this region, all have German names. And this one is in the Hoffman mountain range. And they were masters at building underground bunkers. Some of the paperclip Nazis that came over here after the war were specifically designing the deep underground military bases that we have in this country. And so their influence just keeps going on. It's like the gift that just keeps giving. You just can't get enough out of these paperclip Nazis. They'll just do everything for you. Put a man on the moon, create MK Ultra programs that dose large segments of the population. They just keep on giving on.
Well, and it's kind of like that thing is one of the things like I really, for the people that say, nah, I'm like, you got to understand World War II, we're flying the P-50, Mustangs, the prop player. The Russians were in the process of creating planes that we wasn't until the Korean War that we had. And they were on the verge. If we had not, I think the last one, like projection, if it had not come to the conclusion when it did, there is a good chance that the Nazis would have dominated the entire globe because you would have had jet aircraft fighting against prop planes. It would have been over instantly. And so you think
they already had the jet airplanes.
Yeah, you think World War II. So here is if Hitler, like you said, made it down there in the 30s and established a base here, they've got free reign to be doing this even after the war is over. You have Operation High Jump. What did they encounter down? Right. That would make sense that our military would encounter the superior fighting force and be, have to turn around and flee.
Exactly. And we had just won World War II in Europe. Well, the Germans had to abandon Europe. They made the ginormous mistake of attacking Russia. Big move. Should have learned from history. Napoleon tried it. That's how he lost his army control of the European continent. And Hitler tried it too in Operation Barbarossa. And they just got froze to death. They underestimated the Russian winner. And it's really interesting. In Beyond Esoteric, I have a chapter in the beginning about the occult and fascism and American Nazis and so forth. But in the occult and fascism, I go into a lot of the German secret societies, including the Thule Society, the Vril Society, and really, I think the most interesting, the Ananurbi Society. And this was the whole collection of artifacts, the expeditions that the Nazis took to try to find. Oh boy, would they have loved to have found the Ark of Gabriel. I think they probably might have been able to handle it. And remember in the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, it was Nazis on a hunt for the Ark of the Covenant, which in the end showed that ability to emit that plasma discharge and called the Nazis at the end. Remember that? And then
that's
they found
melting.
it. Were able to get it in a box. Yeah, and then stashed it into some giant warehouse in Washington, D.C. or Virginia or somewhere. And then it burned a little bit at the end. So some of this stuff is based on fact. So the Germans were looking all over the world for artifacts that may give them the power to defeat any enemy. And Hitler's most prized possession was the Spear of Destiny, which he got out of the Austrian Museum in Vienna right when they annexed Austria into their sphere of influence. And Spear of Destiny, at least the authentic one they think came out of Austria, has never been recovered. That could be down in Antarctica too.
That's one of those those artifacts, because you also talk about, like the thing is just there was three mysterious objects. Some definitively say they're craft. Other ones are just like it's you've got the naysayers, the ones that debunk it. It's like, no, it's just pixelation, shadows. But there's a couple of them. You clearly see there's an object here. There's a hole. There's something here that shouldn't be in this area. Obviously there's something there in the ice. What is it? We're trying to figure this out. Obviously, Hitler and the Nazis found something because they made all those expeditions down there.
And they were fully involved and fascinated with the occult. I would invite your listeners to come to the virtual Contact in the Desert at the end of the month. I'm giving a workshop on Antarctica and showing so much more to this story. It's called The Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica, the Latest Findings. And I'll get into the New Schwabenland area, and I'll show you the patch, the badge they had for that expedition has oak leaves, which signify that this was steeped in the occult. A lot of their programs were. And one of the reasons why Hitler lost the Russian front was because he placed too much confidence in his dowsers and card readers. So he was so much into the occult, they told him that the Russian winter would be very mild. And he didn't even send the troops on the front line winter jackets. They were all still in their spring jackets.
Wow.
And the majority of German soldiers died on the Eastern Front. It was the biggest disaster. Had they held off or didn't do it or read it, because what the Russians did is they cut off all of their supply lines, and it just became a starvation in Stalingrad and a lot of other cities that got cut off, and the Germans just died of starvation and exposure. They were also giving them speed. They were giving the Nazi troops amphetamine. And there's even a blend within the community of meth heads that blend the Nazi formula, believe it or not. And so when they cut off, those guys went into withdrawal because they were starving to death and they didn't have their speed, and they got their knees cut off because they couldn't do anything. And
God, I forgot about that. I mean,
extraordinary. Like 9 out of 10 Germans died in the Eastern Front.
I'm thinking about this. You're hungry, you're starving, and you're absolutely strung out looking for your next fix. I mean, you're basically just a frozen, starving junkie. Oh my God. I mean, you almost wonder if there wasn't something, but not really like behind the scenes, but something otherworldly that was putting a stop to this, because this looked like in the what if history range that this is not so much as if it could have happened. It's, it's what, the just things that we got lucky that it didn't happen.
Right. Well, just remember, history is always written by the winners. Mm-hmm. Voltaire said that history is the Mississippi of lies. There's so much to history that has just been edited out. Usually all the really good stuff that we're talking about here tonight, including the largest tank battle of the world in 1943. It's the Battle of Kursk, right outside of Moscow. And that was really the turning point. Either they were going to be able to defeat the Soviets and get to Moscow and capture that's what they're banking the entire Eastern Front war on. And at that battle in 1943, there were many witnesses and even some rare photographs of a dish-shaped craft hovering. Now, it wasn't in battle. They hadn't outfitted the Hanibu and their earlier crafts to be able to enter into warfare situations. As you said, Craig, had the Nazis had 6 months or even another year to really unleash all these wonder weapons, the tide of the war would have been completely different, because a lot of those paperclip Nazis that were coming over here, some of them were nuclear scientists and brought their secrets here and worked on the Manhattan Project, which then dropped bombs in Japan. But here's an illustration, recently released blueprint plan of the Hanibu craft, the Hanibu 2. And so one of these was seen hovering over the Battle of Kursk. So they had already operational dish-shaped craft 75 years ago. I mean, just wrap your head around that. And also keep in mind that UFOs create their own force field. So in the Battle of High Jump, when Admiral Byrd got down there thinking that they were still hiding away in the New Berlin base, they located it. The first day was a reconnaissance, plus they dropped a couple of bombs. There were some above ground buildings there. The next day they sent in a big bomber fleet. As they were approaching the New Berlin base, this Hoffman mountain range where it was located, coming in to drop their cargo. All those planes just dropped off the radar. Those pilots and those planes have never been heard from or recovered since. And then shortly thereafter, on the same day, then it was the Battle of High Jump. Then those craft came out of the water. So they were unknown submersible vehicles as well, USOs. And those USOs couldn't be shot down. They had their own force field. And so in a show of force, they sunk one of the ships in the fleet under Admiral Byrd. It was the Murdoch. And a great recovery would be to go down there like they did with the Titanic and find the Murdoch. And if it were sliced in half with a direct energy weapon, again, technology 75 years later, we're still scratching our head. Although I think they do have the dues now, and they're using them to burn out here in California, where I'm at. There's the beautiful old growth redwoods right behind me in Humboldt County. This is still the Nazi ideology that has infected not only America, but the whole world. And this is who the true enemy is. This is what's doing a lot of the harm in the world today, and have been. They really were not defeated in World War II. They just went underground and became an intelligence division with their large bases around the world, including in Chile and Argentina. There are land holdings that nobody really knows who owns them that go back to the era of World War II, when they bought these tracts of land in South America. Some of them are the size of our small states. They're like the size of Connecticut or Vermont, and they're owned by these Germanic rich people who have been down there for all these years. Now, all the people who were in World War II, of course, they've expired. It's been so long, or they're very, very old men. But the philosophy has carried on. This neo-fascist agenda has rolled over through the generations. And this is what we're seeing today. It is the implementation of their new world order. It's being rolled out right before our very eyes. It is already past tense. We're already there. They're doing it.
Yeah,
and this is what I said would happen years ago. I saw his 12-and-a-half-hour marathon, and he was warning us then. They're going to do it. There's going to come a day when they're going to come above ground. They're going to come out of their smoky boardrooms, and they just have to implement the plan. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's just, as everybody that says, well, that's not possible. I mean, you have to look at history. I mean, it's just, you realize that, okay, the Nazi regime was incredibly evil, was incredibly destructive. All we did was we just stopped the military arm of it. That's it. We took all of the research that they got from during the Holocaust, from all the experiments done on the people in those extermination camps. They took all that information, same way with the Japanese scientists that did all that research. All this research didn't go away. It was divvied up between the NATO allies and Russia, who got the science. And, we talk about, I think NASA was highly influenced by one of the premier rocket scientists from the Nazi regime. I mean, this wasn't just some guy. I mean, and when you start getting all these pieces through there, and people keep saying, like they'd come up to you and say, Brad, seriously, you really think this is happening? It's like, do not look at history. The guy's face is right there with all the photos of our rockets for the NASA program. He was a Nazi scientist. He wasn't held against his own will. He was willingly there. He just decided, oh, you're not going to put me in that camp? Yeah, I'll work for you. I mean, they just became mercenaries. Scientific mercenaries is all they were.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
I have
it's pretty crazy. Yeah, and you get to these things and you wonder.
The second book in the series,
The Future Esoteric. Mm-hmm.
I have a picture of Werner von Braun during World War II wearing his SS uniform. And so what that means, and he was a very rare shot, maybe the only one that exists, but it shows that he was in the SS, which was the occultish wing of the Nazi Party. They were the special protection force of Hitler is how it started out, much like the Praetorian Guards would always protect the Caesars. Well, Hitler had his own rank called the SS, led by Heinrich Himmler, and they were basically very much into the occult. In Beyond Esoteric, I have this great image of Wieselberg, which is their castle. Here's a write-up on it, and here it is, shaped like the spear of destiny. Remember I brought that up earlier? There it is, in architectural form. And Wieselberg is right there at the very tip. It is the very tip of the spear here. That is Wieselberg Castle. And they were going to excavate and design a giant moats and geoform the whole landscape around there so they could have hundreds of thousands of people come for their great big rallies. And they were doing those in Nuremberg and other places. And so those who were aligned with the occult would be a part of the SS. And so, of course, when World War II ended, Werner von Braun, he'd never talk about that anymore. But he wore the uniform. He was part of it. And he came over here and helped start up NASA. Yep, there you go. Same with Reinhard Gehlen, who helped start up the CIA. It was called the OSS before World War II, and then it was the intelligence gathering agency, which became the CIA, largely tasked with spying on the Soviets. And that's what Reinhard Gehlen was doing during the war. He really should have been in the Nuremberg trials on war crimes, as were many of the paperclip Nazis, including Werner von Braun, was using slave labor at Peenemünde, their rocket facility. Instead, he gets promoted and brought over here and gets to head up Never a Straight Answer, NASA.
Yep.
Now, did he tell us about the saucer technology that they developed at the end of World War II at a place called the Skoda Works, which is in today Czech Republic? Nope. They developed those rockets, those Roman candles that just shoot something up in the sky using solid fuel, but none of the anti-gravity, none of the 0-point energy stuff. They kept all the good stuff for themselves, and they took it to South America and Antarctica. And I think that is what confronted Admiral Byrd in the high jump flotilla in the Battle of High Jump, was their own Nazi craft, which they had then another 2 years to work on and perfect the delivery system of the weapons. That was a holdup at the end of the war. Plus, I think by 1944, they knew it was over. They knew they've lost Germany, and they had already started making their evacuation plans. And they existed for many decades in South America.
That's an awesome. I can't believe you said it, because that
There's
was
another little twist to the story too.
Yeah, go ahead. No, this is one.
Yeah. So here's another chapter in Beyond Esoteric called Alternative 1, 2, and 3. And Alternative 1 was the blasting of the ozone layer using these missiles during Operation Argus, which is still a top secret mission today, down in the Southern Ocean, right off the coast of New Schwabenland. They're doing top secret nuclear testing. Well, I think what they were really doing were lobbing some nukes at the New Berlin base, and to get the Nazis out of there once and for all. It's interesting that in the next year, the Antarctica Treaty started to be formulated with the expressed written directive that Antarctica could never be used for nuclear bomb testing or nuclear usage anyhow or anyway. Now, that's kind of interesting. Why would you have to put that in there so prominently unless it's already happened? Which I think it did.
Yep.
So if I were ever to go back to Antarctica with a film crew, I'd want to go to the New Schwabenland area, try to find the New Berlin base and bring some Geiger counters. And if it's got any radioactivity, that place got nuked in 1958, I do believe. And so, but by then they didn't like Antarctica. It didn't really work out for them that well. There may still be bases there. I'm not saying that it's completely out. But they had moved most of their operations to South America, at least where they were working on the UFO craft. And just one more cool little story on that note. When I was down in South America, we went to a place where even in the Lonely Planet book said that it's notorious for UFOs and all these abductions that took place in the 70s and 80s, and burn marks on the mountain. And that struck me as kind of odd because according to Billy Meyer, the good aliens absolutely cannot leave any kind of harm or damage or broken parts or hurt people. So the good aliens were never involved with abductions. The malevolent ones, yeah, they were. But so were the Nazis. And they have a base right there in central Argentina. And so all these UFO sightings, according to my friend David Hatcher Childress, who's on Ancient Aliens all the time, I was telling him I went down there to La Falda, and it's all German towns and these hills. And he goes, "Oh, Brad, yeah, we might go down there with the film crew and look into the base down there." I said, "Really? You think Nazis had a base there?" "Oh, yeah. It's real well documented." And then, so I told him what I knew about the Lonely Planet and going down there, and there's signs everywhere with aliens on it and stuff. It's a big tourist destination now for that reason. And they were all the Nazis the whole time. So that's pretty funny that their legacy lives on in through the decades after World War II. And also keep in mind, the Third Reich never surrendered.
Nope.
Only the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force surrendered at the end of World War II. The political arm, the political party, never surrendered. They became the Fourth Reich, and that's what we're still dealing with today.
And that kind of it still brings back to what I was going to ask you a few minutes ago too. Now with Werner von Braun and the other scientists, do you think that was intentional? Basically, like these guys were set up as, we want you to surrender, we want you to get captured, so that way you can bring them, instead of focusing on, like you said, looking at these anti-gravity, looking at these other crafts, the UFO style ones, get them focused on the rockets. Like I said, the Roman candles, you can focus them on this way, keep them focused here, distract them while we are working on this. The ones that really mattered, the ones that Werner von Braun answered to, they're already off down there doing their thing.
Exactly.
That's
and I'm friends with Joseph Farrell, and he's done many books. He's the deep researcher, so I give credit where credit's due. But in one of Joseph Farrell's books, he said that Werner von Braun and Hermann Oberith and a lot of the other Nazis were always passing attaché bags, which could go through customs because they were the bags they use in the embassies. So ambassadors they have the right to travel over borders without being searched, as well as all their belongings. Joseph Farrell was saying that there was evidence that they were passing these attaché bags to the Nazis in South America and elsewhere around the world. And this was the building of the Fourth Reich, really a third power during the whole Cold War era. See, this is history that just won't be told by anyone in our Western media. Why? Because we kind of got our ass handed to us, both in the Battle of High Jump, but also the last battle of World War II was in the North Atlantic, and it was the Nazis totally routing any ships that standed in their way. So the big armada of their U-boats, and some of those U-boats were massive. They were cargo containing probably the big parts of the Honeyboo craft that they could reassemble in South America and Antarctica. Many different sightings of those U-boats coming up after the war Sometimes in South America, they just ran out of fuel or food, and they basically had to surrender. But others got away. Seen in Joseph Farrell's and the other book by Henry Stevens called Dark Star. Really excellent book about the Germans in Antarctica. He was saying that the registry of U-boats, there are dozens, if not up to 100 U-boats. Nobody knows whatever happened to them. And the Germans were so far ahead in submarine technology. Of course, a lot of those scientists came over to work through Operation Paperclip too. And pretty good chance that they were working on remember the first Nautilus, the first nuclear submarine? Mm-hmm. So America got greatly benefited by these scientists, and we did get the most. The Brits got some, and the Russians got a few more, but they all really wanted to be here. If they ever had a chance to defect, they would come to America. And just to tie it up with Reinhard Gehlen, so he comes over here, he's spying on the Soviets, part of starting up the CIA. He eventually ended his career as the head spy chief in West Germany before the Berlin Wall broke up. Jeez. So he was still, as were most of them. Look, if you were in the SS like Werner von Braun, you took an oath for life, okay? And they never gave up on that ideology. So if some of them went back to Western Germany, and why do you think Germany is the strongest country in Europe by far? And when they absorbed Eastern Germany, just became even stronger. They had all the money. They have all the wealth. The same thing is true in South America. The Germans are the richest. There's even a joke that I heard in Argentina, because almost all of their native people are gone. Same with Chile. But up in Peru and Bolivia, a lot of indigenous people. And that culture is still alive, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. But even the Fueguean Indians, the giants of Patagonia, they're gone. They just got wiped out. They were way worse with genocide than we were in America, and we were pretty bad here. So the joke is, well, then who are we as Argentinians anymore? Really, most of them are Southern Europeans like Greeks and Italians. So the joke is, the Argentinians today are Greeks or Italians who speak Spanish and wish they were as rich as the Germans. And that's kind of the country. And there are a lot of tall and
oh my God. Yeah. So
they look just like us.
Yeah, I think that's always that joke, is like you go down there and you're looking for, some cultural thing, and it looks like this heavy German European influence everywhere.
Big time.
Yeah,
I spent 4 months down there, and Chile and Argentina. Buenos Aires is like a European city, big, wide, long boulevards, great classical buildings.
Not what you'd expect from the agriculture. Yeah, that's one area I would actually really like to get down to and see, is Argentina. Antarctica is definitely on my bucket list of, wish list. It's like, if money was not an option, we'd be there right now. Yeah, I'd be down there, explore it, because I think that would be a blast.
Well, it's still, they're holding people up traveling down there still because of this scamdemic thing. But yeah, some of those countries are very difficult to travel in. Chile is still real bad as far as getting around. Here, take a look at this, you guys. They're making our dinner. They're collecting the wood and starting a fire. We're going to have our dinner on the Barbie tonight here under the old growth redwoods in Humboldt County. It's such a cool spot.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm glad I was able to use some bars off my cell phone and do this interview here. I knew it would be cool if I could make it work, and looks like it's
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was just thinking too, while we were talking about, when you were talking about the testing and in the treaty, I remember seeing a plaque. I think it was originally in the British side, where it said dedicated to the observation of the enemy. But I cannot for the life of me find it again. So I don't know if it's something that's been scrubbed, or if that was just one of those, Mandela effect type things where I believe that I saw it, but it never really existed. I don't know, but I swear I remember seeing a plaque, and I don't know if you know anything about that.
I'm not aware of the plaque, but I can say that where I was on a sailboat, 26-day trip, it was on the northern tip of the Palmer Peninsula, and that's that finger of land that sticks out from Argent. Well, the one that comes down from Argentina is like this.
Mm-hmm.
My other finger is the Palmer Peninsula that sticks off the Antarctic side. That's called West Antarctica, and we sailed for 15 full days in Antarctica, and most cruise ships only spend 5 days down there. So really got a much longer trip. And everywhere I went, I was asking the same questions, because we went to a bunch of research stations, went to, sometimes they were converted from British holdings into museums. And those British bases that I visited were originally built to spy on the Nazis in New Schwabenland. So the plaque you might have seen, Craig, could have been part of that. And so where we were going, everywhere I went, I said, do you know anything about 3 massive ships under the ice? No. Do you know anything about antediluvian civilizations, pyramids poking through? No. Do you know anything about UFOs or any kind of paranormal activity going on here in Antarctica? Because one place we did visit called Deception Island is a sunken active volcano caldera, and you could sail into it, and we did, and it's huge, it's massive. And it was there are still some bases around there, but in 1969 it exploded again and destroyed several bases. They had to flee out of there, and it ruined a couple of the old 19th century whaling stations, which we went ashore and visit. And it was still the ground was steaming, and there was an area. It even said in the Lonely Planet, if you catch it at the right time on low tide, you can go and take a hot tub and soak in a volcano caldera in Antarctica. And that particular place is very well known for UFO sightings. Yeah. And isn't it interesting that most UFO sightings around the world occur at, above, or around volcanoes? And Antarctica has the most amount of active volcanoes in the world. 91 known active volcanoes. So just like the reason the Germans picked this mountain range area of New Schwabenland, it has a line going right through it of geothermal activity that goes right up the mid-Atlantic ridge, right through the middle of the Atlantic. If you look on an underwater glossary, you'll see a mountain range. It goes all the way up. That's all volcanically active. It goes straight down to Antarctica and straight through it.
Now, why do you think
fault line
they're all
with
drawn?
geothermal activities? So that,
like with the
What do you mean?
geothermal activity, do you think that's what it is? Like it's almost like a study thing, or do you think that they're actually getting something from that geothermal activity? Like there's something that's actually
So that's
used.
where I was getting with all this. Because I can tell you from experience, and I think I'm the only researcher in this field who's ever been down there. Anybody that studies ufology or paranormal, so it was a great learning experience on my part. And a lot of my perceptions, some were wrong, some may be right, about the geothermal activities being a key component of habitation in Antarctica, because you have an energy source, you have a way to heat up rooms. So can you imagine the most volcanic continent in the world under 2 miles of ice, which is how deep it is on the polar plateau of eastern Antarctica? Huge, giant domes have the ability to be formed. And in there, you're out of the above area of very fierce, very cold storms. You're protected from all that. And the geothermal activities might heat up those domes to a pretty comfortable 50, 60, 70 degrees. So you could work there, you could live there if you can grow your own food, or have a way to get shipments coming in. See, in my workshop I'm in Contact the Desert in a few weeks, I'll show you some maps of Antarctica without the ice. And there are these massive fjords that extend great distances into the continent. So this would easily suggest that these U-boat generals who were able to navigate some of the stormiest seas of the world, getting into Antarctica, if they knew the right passages, they could get through and well deep into the continent. So mix in those geothermal features and these giant under ice domes, and you have what Admiral Dolan said was an impregnable fortress in a faraway frozen land, a Shangri-La for the Fuhrer. They said they had built, the U-boat fleet had built an impregnable fortress for the Fuhrer. And so that was the New Berlin base. This is where it is. I know where it's at. I just have to go down there and explore it and bring a film crew to prove it. But it would change history as we know it entirely. Everything we think we know about World War II would go up on its head because the Germans didn't lose. That's the thing. They didn't. They came over here. They joined us. They infiltrated and took over. How about that?
Yeah, they really didn't.
You know, there are tons of gold bullion that went missing after World War II, as well as priceless artifacts, including, as I mentioned earlier, the Spear of Destiny. They were finding Impressionist paintings that they looted out of France. They were stashed away in the salt mines of Salzburg. One of them was, and I have a picture of it in Beyond Esoteric here. So many things got taken out of Europe that have still not been recovered, including priceless artifacts still unrecovered to this day. What happened to them? How were they so powerful? And where did they go? And maybe, can we still get them back? Maybe, hopefully. But yeah, tons of stuff about the Nazis in the Americas. And this guy, Mengele, he never got captured either. The most infamous medical doctor in history lived out his natural life in South America. Yep.
And I linked that into the Contact in the Desert. I linked that also in the chat and stuff for people.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, definitely gonna check that out. But yeah,
also you could you also look up my next live event, because Contact in the Desert is a virtual one, which is great because then it doesn't sell out and people don't get turned away. As many people want to come to that can. But my next live event is up in Mount Shasta at the end of August, called the Mount Shasta Summer Conference. And if people want to come, and it will sell out, but if they use my name, Brad, B-R-A-D, they can get a discount for that 4-day conference up at Mount Shasta. I'll be there the whole time with my books and table. Love to meet people. Come on up and let's experience paranormal Mount Shasta. Great time. And I'll be giving my ANR as well. And you can see that live.
Yeah, I'll link that. I'll link that down here too as well. So that way get that for people. So that will put that in the chat there for everybody as well. So that's in there. So there we go. So hopefully that's all right.
Yeah. So lots of weird stuff in history that's all kind of out now. I say on the back of my book, all that is hidden will be revealed, and oh boy, won't it. And so Mark Eddy just put up the CCC publishing link. Anybody that wants to order one of these books or anything else off of CCC Publishing, you get a discount on the website, and the books from me will get signed on the way out.
Oh, nice. So that's even the nice little teaser there. Do you want another signed copy? All right, I might have to get one of those first so I can add it to my collection behind me. Got to start to build one of signed books. I like it. So You may be getting a request from me here by the end of the night. So,
hey, you
that's
got it,
Chad.
man. As soon as I'm back from Humboldt, I'll be sending out a bunch of books next
Awesome.
week. It'll go.
Yeah,
then.
no, this is one of those ones where this whole fascination with these things that aren't found, and why it's. I mean, there's almost too many things going on for them to just be able to flat out just say there's nothing here, because like you said, the Patriarch going down there, you have the lone. There's too many things here that they're not supposed to be here. Why would this would be like the Pope just suddenly making a trip down to Antarctica to bless this one chapel that's over here too, and just you're like, because they just deposit. Well, what did they deposit? Well, there's nothing there. Well, then why did the head of the Holy See go down here? It just, you see some of these, like, what was the report? God, it was a few years ago where several heads of state went down there as well. You had John Kerry and a few other ones that went and took a tour. It's right. You start going through these things, you're like, why all of a sudden are you suddenly interested in what? You just guys all as buddies just decided to finally put together that group on and go down for a snowmobile trip down in Antarctica. It's just, you start looking at it, you're like, what?
Right around the same time.
Yeah.
When the Ark of Gabriel went down there, that 2016, 2017 time frame. And then get this. So Prince Harry, the probably illegitimate son of
probably
the monarchy, because Charles was having an affair, and so was Diana with her horse trainer, and the guy had red hair and looks just like Harry does now. So Harry, he's been controversial. He got cut. Remember, he was on the cover of the newspapers in the UK wearing a Nazi band at a party. Mm-hmm. Their real last name is Saxon Coburg Gotha, total Germanic royal family. They're all to the T. They're all Germans.
Wow.
And so that's why Herman Hesse, he flew a plane to Scotland to meet with the king and to sue for peace, saying, hey, we don't want to bomb you guys. You're Aryans. You're part of us. We want to bring you into the fold here. Of course, Herman Hesse lived the rest of his life in the Spandau prison and died there. But they're very Germanic. So Prince Harry, when he went down to Antarctica, he went to the South Pole, okay? And the one thing I did find out by going to all the bases and asking questions, there is definitely a big no-fly zone right over a portion of the South Pole, about 10, 15, 20 miles away. A big gaping hole that Admiral Byrd, as an aviator, said he saw, and he flew into it. It was so big, I'm estimating about 40 miles across, so huge that he could dip his plane in, circle around, and come back out safely. And so Prince Harry went and cross-country skied out there. That's pretty interesting. Around that same time frame, John Kerry, he went missing for several days after landing at McMurdo, and right at the time of the presidential election. Isn't that interesting? To the day, he was there when Trump was elected, and then went further afield. I think he needed to get his marching orders from some of the perhaps those that stay hidden down there in some of these under ice bases. Then you also have Buzz Aldrin, second man to walk on the moon, was down there during that time frame and put out this cryptic tweet. We have seen the face of evil. We are all in danger. And then took it down, but not before a bunch of people could do a screen capture of it.
Gotcha.
So a lot of weirdness was going on in that time frame. And then to tie that all together with when the Ark of Gabriel was also making its entrance into the scene, and then all these royals, including the King of Spain, was down there during that time frame. So you got royal families, you got top politicians, religious leaders, and celebrities. We're all going down. Tom Hanks was down there in that time frame, and he's a real shady character. So They knew something that we don't know.
Now I'm just thinking as you're describing the different people, are they tied to different family lines? Maybe because there's always been that underpinning that there's a group of ancient family lineage that throughout time, it's basically is kind of like the overarching power structure. Are all these people that went down there, do they have ties to these different families by chance? Because some of these are just some pretty random ones.
I think some of them do. Certainly.
Yeah. Because obviously, if it's something I have a hard time believing that just any celebrity, that's influencer on TikTok that's got millions of followers is going to be able to just hop on something and just go down there and see this that like a movie star. I mean, there'd have to be something that you're tied to in order to be involved in this.
Right.
Yeah, that's
yeah, right. And the moneyed elite and the weird people who made these sayings like Kerry was going down as a climate champion. Oh, I guess he's super interested in the penguins.
Yeah.
But you couldn't have come down a week later, a week before. Why'd you have to be there on election day and then go missing for several
a couple
days?
Of days?
Getting his money. Yeah. Okay. Now we got Trump as president. What's to do? Go after him every possible way. Impeach him. Trash him in the media. Get him.
Well, I just noticed, like you said, the time we're here about an hour. Wrap it up here. Yeah, I just what we did is I'd love to have you on again. Like I said, we'll see what's down the road. I'll get the book and I'll definitely get that one. Get some other people there. Get some more research done, and I'll also bring you back on and talk to you more about, especially with all this disclosure stuff supposedly getting ready to happen that we keep getting teased with. But everybody, go to Brad. Awesome. Yeah. So BradOlsen.com but go there, pick up the book. You're going to get it personally signed and sent back to you. And then, like I said, go to contactinthedesert.com. We're going to virtual event. So you're going to be able to watch that right from your home. Go ccpublishing.com to also get some more information on the books that he publishes, plus other authors that he publishes as well. So we need to let you go so you can go enjoy your dinner that they're getting ready to be cooking back there for you. So now you tease us with a barbecue. Woo-hoo! So enjoy.
Yeah,
enjoy
here.
your time amongst. Oh, you got the fire going right now. I see it. Keep it away from that tree.
Yeah, burns. We're in Jurassic Park here. Tallest trees in the world right behind me. Those are all old growth. They're massive.
Those are
There's a little
amazing.
hammock over there.
Yep. I said, well, hey, sir,
guys,
I really appreciate
it again.
All right. I had a good time. Like I said, take care.
Really
like I said,
awesome.
we will. All right. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Have a great week.
All right. Everybody, this episode was brought to you by Nanny Cakes. Go to Nanny Cakes 407 on Facebook or give her a phone call at 407-923-2898. ThreeBeardsPodcast.com is our website. Check us out on social media. Please, YouTube, go like, share, follow, subscribe, wherever you're in. We also now have a merchandise store on redbubble.com, Three Beards Podcast, where you can buy merchandise just like this. So you can have an orange beard on you as well, that Austin has naturally. But you can get one temporarily that you can wear until you get it dirty and have to wash it. So if he gets his dirty, he still has to wash it, but it's stuck. It's permanent. So Xeno Radio app, download that, go to Patriot Radio and favorite them and listen to our show, which is rebroadcast every Thursday night at 10 p.m., courtesy of JJ Beard Company out of New Jersey, jjbeardco.com. Check them out. Thank them for that. Once again, redbubble.com is our new merchandise site. Check them out, please, everybody. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for sharing. Chastity, if you get the black shirt right there, it doesn't just highlight. You have the 3, and then you have the nice bright orange beard. See the orange beard right there. You just get to see it. So you just get to pretend, that's me and Chris lurking in the background. You can't see us. So everybody, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. We will see you guys next week. Good night.
Yeah.